Boom. We're live. Gentlemen, welcome. How are you all?
Good.
Good, thanks.
Not a good,
So-
John.
So it's great to be talking to you guys. Batters, we've obviously spoken before, and RD and Selfbank, just on Twitter. But I'm a huge fan of what you guys do. I'm really interested in the story of how and why you came together, and I know you're working on some really cool projects right now. So rather than me, introduce what you guys are doing, do one of you kind of want to, take the lead and just tell everybody what 21ism is and what you guys are up to right now, or the genesis behind 21ism rather?
Sure. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah,
Go on, Badders. Yeah.
You guys pitch in, shut
Of
me up
course.
whenever you like. So, well, basically, it came from just kind of all of us contributing to Twitter with various bits and bobs. And we ended up in a Telegram group together. And sort of based on that, got chatting more and more. Selfbank and I, we swapped a creative saliva on a little video mashup that I did, and that's just sort of sowed the seed for many more things, I'd say. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess we were drawn together by our kind of creativity in some way, because we all are not massively kind of technical, but we've got a lot of energy that we want to put somewhere, and we were looking for a kind of outlet for that. We just seemed to be kind of drawn together through the groups that we were in and through the content that we shared. The rest is history. Well, hopefully it will be. I don't know.
And so, prior to that, I think each of you were putting out different kinds and forms and frequencies of memes, right? Bitcoin memes, to try to communicate different aspects of Bitcoin. And I guess, this phenomenon of voluntarily taking time to contribute, and that, this podcast and a lot of other people that meme, people that, core contributors even, that do this is such a unique attribute of Bitcoin. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of each of your stories, but, for the context of this discussion, I think it'd be interesting just to get some insight into like what led you all to be here. Can, RD, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, well, I sort of ended up on the Bitcoin path just because of sort of in trying to find out more about economics and money. And yeah, when I found out about how money worked, I suddenly came across Bitcoin, and that really sort of changed my world, really changed my life, and just fills all my brain space, really. And I'm not good. I'm like these guys, these two are really good, like elegant speakers, and I'm not good with words, and I'm not good with tweets, but
That's total bullshit.
Meme. Yeah, I can definitely meme, and that's how I get it out. But yeah, it's just listening to loads of content, podcasts like yours, and audio books and things, and it just comes out my brain in the form of memes, really. And that's how I'm here, really.
And when did this journey start for you, the kind of figuring out money, coming across Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I had heard about Bitcoin sort of from Max Kaiser, probably 14, 15, when he first started talking about it. Didn't really get too interested in it then. And then it wasn't really until 2017, and I listened to Dominic Frisby's book on Bitcoin, the Future of Money, which isn't that well known because I don't think it was released in the US. Literally the first 10 minutes of that book, I was like, the penny dropped, and I was just like, that's it, it's Bitcoin. This is the answer. And I literally just went and bought my first little bit of Bitcoin, started learning, listened to the rest of the book, didn't change my mind, and then just went straight down the rabbit hole and haven't looked back. So yeah, that's how it started for me.
Amazing. Selfbank, what about you?
I've been kind of drawn to it for a lot of reasons, but it was in 2014 that just because of a curiosity about the Silk Road that I looked into it, ended up getting some Bitcoin, not buying the drugs, just kind of keeping the Bitcoin. And just kind of mainlining on Andreas Antonopoulos kind of podcasts and YouTube content for a bit, really. But it takes a while to turn Bitcoin only and to work it all out and for the penny to drop. And I guess that didn't really happen until 2017, sort of 2018. I actually kind of sold quite a bit of Bitcoin in 2017 and started a kind of restaurant, which was a kind of cultural hub. And so we were kind of showcasing artists. We were trying to tie into local history. We were getting musicians to play every week, doing a lot of kind of social media to begin to kind of promote this. And that's been quite a success, but the restaurant business is not a way to make a lot of money anymore. I have seen that. So I'm passing the business on to the manager and the head chef. And I'm sort of dedicated to this as my sole extracurricular activity now. But I think, and so those experiences have primed me for this kind of 21ism thing, which is about trying to spot the talent and trying to bring the talent kind of together and to present it and to showcase it and to promote it. And that's what this 21ism thing is really all about.
And had you been involved in any sort of creative pursuits prior to the restaurant endeavor?
I went down the kind of medical route just before university. So I sort of ditched any proclivity to art that I had before that. I made the sensible kind of professional choice to do some science and maths and English at A level. And I sort of didn't really follow the music and the art world, even though I was drawn to it. And, I felt I had a bit of some talent for it. So I just kind of put it on the back burner, needed to earn money, be a professional, all that shit.
And did I think a lot of people's experience is you just end up contributing to Bitcoin almost without noticing it at first. Like, maybe you're on Twitter and maybe you start mixing it up there and maybe you start just putting out statements and seeing people resonate. And then you just kind of coalesces into something like, oh, I like doing this. This is an expression of something that's true in me. And, people seem to like it. It's some kind of a contribution. When you first started doing what you now do, on Twitter through the Selfbank account and putting out memes and stuff, like, was it intentional? Were you like, I want to contribute in this way? Or were you just kind of, fucking around and decide, like, throwing stuff out there and seeing if it stuck, seeing if people liked it?
I'd been doing a lot of kind of social media kind of promotion for the restaurant. So I had some experience of that. And then one day, after just sort of going down a rabbit hole even more, I just sort of said to myself, from now on, I'm going to do one meme a day about Bitcoin. And then I started the pseudonymous account, and I've just been doing probably a fuckload than one kind of meme a day. It just grows, and you meet all these amazing people, and so Batters and RT and yourself. There's just such a great network, and it's really inspiring, and it lifts you up. And it's a train.
Yeah, and it just snowballs. One day you're sending out memes on Twitter, and the next day you're starting a Bitcoin art collective, and who the hell knows what lies ahead. Batters, what about you?
Well, I suppose I've led a life of curiosity and kind of ideas. I've always been stubborn enough to just let ideas sort of lead the way, basically. And so I spent many years just kind of gathering keys onto my key bundle, whether they were thoughts or ideas or experiences, skills. And just so that when I walk through the sort of proverbial corridor of life, that when I come across doors, I can open them up and explore what's behind there. And I suppose that there were a few things that led to finding Bitcoin. One of them was a sort of frustration with the status quo, a lack of belief in the state, all of these sort of things, but also a desire to make money. I mean, number go up technology was definitely what enticed me at first. And then, yeah, just as I do with most things, I just went in both feet. And before I knew it, I was waist deep in Bitcoin. And but as you know already, John, I'm a retrograder in many ways. You know, I've been making decisions to get away from sort of like modern life in many ways. So it wasn't actually until 2019 I decided that I've been a few years in Bitcoin at that point, that I decided that I'd go on Twitter, and Bitcoin Twitter has just been an absolute revelation since. And the more I interacted with people, the more I sort of managed to feed on other people's brains, you know, contemporaries, the more it became obvious to me that it's incumbent on us to show and lead the way. You know, no more lurking around on Twitter. If we want this to succeed, I mean, you could argue that Bitcoin does what it does, but it does it because of a network, and we are part of that network. So to me, belief isn't like buying some Bitcoin. That isn't belief. Belief to me is staking my life on it. And that doesn't mean that everything I own is in Bitcoin, but it means that everything that I do now, even being a full-time dad with my wife, has a direct tie into Bitcoin. And what I do, my time with my family is so incredibly valuable that it's only Bitcoin that gets a look in otherwise. Because it has to be damn good for me to not spend time with them. So yeah, man, this is how I see we can change the world, and that's why we all want to contribute to the space. You were talking earlier about how incredible it is, how many people are making their time and skills available for nothing but the cause. And it's no different in my case. That's what I want to do, and it's because Bitcoin is hope. You know, as I think it's in my sort of pinned tweet. You know, it's for me. It's hope for my sister who's got a brain injury from a car accident, that I can help her out. You know, when she's going to need it. It's for a better life and a better world for my son and for my entire family. I call my one hardware wallet is my family fund, and Bitcoin is hope. And if you're not batting for hope, then what the fuck are you doing?
Woo!
Very well said. And you know, I know this is kind of off topic, but as soon as you said it, you know, I know you're set up, you're kind of off grid, and you know, and it's a beautiful environment. And I love the sentiment that, you know, the highest use of your time is time with family in that environment. And then if anything's going to detract from it, it better be damn good fucking reason to do so. And as you say, Bitcoin is definitely a damn good reason in its proper place. But does the knowledge of Bitcoin, and I think I know the answer, but I don't know why this is popping up, but does the knowledge of Bitcoin, and that you know that it exists and that you're leveraging it for certain reasons, does that enrich, you know, your experience and time spent with family, or for anyone else with loved ones in any way? And the way I'm thinking is like the kind of the as you say, the hope, but also the confidence in the future that it bestows. Does that make the family dynamic, the loved one dynamic, richer because you're more able to focus, like really focus on it, rather than all the kind of torrent of other thoughts that may otherwise be going through your mind if something that bestows a certainty of Bitcoin wasn't there? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I 100% know what you're saying. I think it's it's a bit of both. If I'm completely honest, it takes away focus occasionally from family because there's just so much to learn.
Yeah.
There's so much I need to feed my brain. There's so much I want to do, particularly now that we're starting up 21ism. You know, so in that sense, in a very practical sense, there are times where it plays out like that. But yes, generally, I'd say it gives me a sort of existential kind of chill that
Right.
that particularly in this with this sort of macro backdrop that we have now, that I most certainly wouldn't have otherwise. And that does free up a lot of things. So, for example, in terms of creativity, let's say, it gives a mental calm to kind of foster other thoughts and ideas away from the state, you know, from what's happening politically, socially, culturally, whatever.
But at the same time, there are no certainties right now, and you know, you can't sit and can chill about this because we have to make it happen, because it might not happen. We have a role that we can play to facilitate it. So I think it does give you a structure, but it you know, there's no sense of complacency about it. I mean, I think it's quite scary what the potential for the future could be. I think we can possibly influence that as the decentralized kind of marketing team for Bitcoin. So we're just trying to play our role, but it's hard to get the balance, isn't it? I mean, it really is right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact is work in general, whatever it is always going to take you away from your family or your loved ones. So I guess it's just, you know, a massive upgrade that work is something that you derive so much meaning from, and that you enjoy engaging in, and you believe in, and that has the potential to deliver to you so much benefit, right? So, because sacrifices will always have to be made, but the fact that you can make one that seems so worthy is, you know, a real gift to, I'm sure, many of us.
Yeah, although it's not every sacrifice that is equal. I mean, I go commando most of the time just so I don't have to spend too much money on boxer shorts. Well, Calvin Klein's are expensive, man. You can get a lot of sats for that. And it was Pierre that tweeted out something yesterday about that, and my wife was like, "Is Pierre you? What's going on?" I do cut my own hair, yes.
And none of us are sitting right now, I'm sure.
Yeah,
It's just the illusion of sitting.
I have no chairs in the house anymore.
No,
all gone out the window.
Fuck, what was I going to say? I had something more about that, but why don't we talk a bit about, because I'm interested in, we've talked a little bit about why we're so naturally motivated. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So just on your point, SelfBank, I think this is something, you know, I spoke with Jeremy Rubin, who's a core developer, yesterday, and that's going to be, that was a real interesting conversation. And I think people are going to be interested in this, you know, find it interesting when it comes out. But one of the things we touched on in that conversation is that the social element of this sometimes gets forgotten by some. And, you know, to your point is, like, you don't want to assume that you don't want to have the self-aggrandizing sentiment that, like, well, you're important to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be Bitcoin no matter what.
I completely agree.
Yeah, but the fact is that there is still there's still a big component of Bitcoin that is socially determined and socially upheld. And that does mean that each one of our actions, each one of our voices, the manner in which we engage in this thing is relevant. And so I think, you know, to your point about, like, you know, there is a part to be played here rather than just kind of, you know, sit on your hands and wait. I think that's valid.
Yeah. Also, I think you get a lot of kind of satisfaction out of your involvement with it. I mean,
totally.
And so because of the social network that you become a part of, and how rewarding that is spiritually and
oh, fuck yeah. I mean, how many people have you guys, I know you're Anons, so like your level of connection is like only a certain depth perhaps, but like how many people have you connected with on Twitter that one, you otherwise wouldn't have connected with, but two,
Sure.
you're just like, man,
Yeah.
these people are good fucking people. Like,
Yeah.
their hearts in the
Fucking
right
sound,
place,
man.
their heads in the right place. Like, I
Yeah.
know if I met them at a pub or something, like we would fucking hit it off like nothing, like we'd be best friends in a minute. And it's amazing
that's
that
fun.
like all
It's
these
fun.
people, yeah, of course it's fun. And all these people are waking up to have these similar realizations all across the globe at the same time. It's weird. And
Well,
great.
it's a consensus mechanism of its own, isn't it? Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
But I can't
found
wait for the meetup, like the IRL sort of meetup, like the Honey Badger event. That kind of what's that one? The kind of Baltic
Baltic Honey Badger.
Honey Badger. I need to be there. I need to drink beer with you guys. That's what we fucking need right now.
Yeah,
It's
I totally
gonna
agree.
happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I was considering going to BitBlock Boom this year, but with all the travel restrictions, it just wasn't worth it. But guys, so you came together over kind of a mutual impulse almost to express something, toward this thing that we're all dancing around, Bitcoin. And like, what are the ambitions? Maybe that's the wrong word, but what are the kind of the visions around 21ism? It's a Bitcoin art collective. Like, what do you see this becoming? Because I know over the last few months you've been putting out, some cool videos and some other memes. Like, what's the general vision behind this? Are you trying to gather more to the cause? Like, what's up?
Well, the way that I see it is that we all have our own voice. We all have our own way of contributing. As I wrote to these guys a week or two ago, Bitcoin communicates knowledge and truth to the entire world, and it speaks many languages. And art is just one of those languages that it's speaking through. And to me, it's a Trojan horse, of beauty, let's say, that can implant the knowledge into people that might not be heavily into the economic side of things, or do you know what I mean? It's it's a Trojan horse in its own right. And so I think we all agreed on that. I mean, whether we had defined it like that in our own minds before we came together, but I think that's how we saw ourselves being able to contribute to the space and to sort of perpetuate this virus. We've had, the ideas have been sort of merging in a malleable sort of way while we've been doing this, but it has ended up that 21ism is a celebration of the Bitcoin, the creativity that's happening within the Bitcoin community.
Yeah.
So every 21 days, we will be doing a turn on our creative carousel and feature an artist, a designer, a writer, a meme artist, a developer, and a video maker,
Musician as well.
and a band or a musician, and then show off their work, have their work for sale. 100% of all sales go directly to the artist. 100% of donations go straight to the developer. It's not a money play for us in any sort of way. And then after 21 days, we feature another set, and it includes, as I said, all their work, but also interviews with them. You having done one for this sort of Genesis block of our own, John, and just really trying to shout about and show off all the incredible talent there is in this space.
Yeah.
Would you agree, so?
Yeah, I think we also want to tell the kind of stories of the artists as well. We want to try and get behind them and present where they're coming from. I think that's really important. And I think I think what's happening, or what could happen with Bitcoin, is going to be potentially a massive change to society, and all changes of that kind of scale demand a cultural revolution. And so we're trying to present that creative, cultural vanguard and that sort of energy that we've seen and that we see. And it's really fucking talented, man. I mean, there's just so many smart, talented people putting great content out.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
I love how you said that. I mean, it gives me goosebumps to hear it because it's something that I often think about. I mean, yes, we often focus on the financial aspect of all this, the economic, you know, like what it's displacing, what that means for economic structure, political structure, you know, individual wealth, whatever. But I couldn't agree more. Like, this is not just, or actually, I guess the best way to say it is that when you make an upgrade of this kind, when you upgrade the money, because of how pervasive how pervasive money is, it's impossible that it doesn't affect almost everything, especially when the upgrade is so profound. You know, for example, to something like fiat money, or from fiat money to Bitcoin. And I'm so excited. And I mean, like you said, this is kind of presenting the vanguard of like, what kind of creative expressions is this change birthing? What kind of creative expressions is it inspiring? And it's a real interesting question to dig down and be like, why is it inspiring these types of creative expression? Like, what's behind that? Is it something inherent about the properties of this new form of money, or is it something different? Is it, you know? And actually, I mean, if you have thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it.
I think that we don't know where it's going to lead. So I think we're all pretty open-minded, and I think it's going to be exciting to see where these creative people are taking it, and what direction that they're going in. And we're just going to be trying to follow the talent. But I think you're right. I think the expressions and the ideas and the symbols that they use will be the symbols of the revolution.
Right. Another point I often stress is that, like, this is ultimately a behavioral revolution, and culture is kind of like, I guess you don't want to say like mass aggregated behavior, but it's something like that. You know, it's different ideas and memes that a lot of people seem to feel and desire to express, you know.
It's just in the air, isn't it?
Right. Right. And that's why
it reflects that way, doesn't it? It doesn't reflect the other way around. It's the art that reflects on what is going on in the sort of in the microcosms of, you know, that is Bitcoin. And so it's a really just a really interesting indicator of everything that is happening in people's minds.
Yeah, well, that's why I loved your point in that art being a Trojan horse, because, you know, like, when I am, you know, out on a walk or a run or whatever, and I'm thinking about Bitcoin, as I'm sure, as we said before, it occupies a lot of our mind space. But, you know, I could do hundreds of hours of podcasting, or whoever, pick your favorite podcast or speaker or whatever. And there's just the realm of intellectual, you know, understanding, and the realm of the potential impact of the properly constructed piece of art. It's just, they're not in the same universe. You know, I'm all for, like, I love a good intellectual, like, digging my teeth into something like that. But you can see a piece of art and you can get something like that. You could be like, I see it, you know? And that's why I often, like, I just think, and this is why I love what you guys are doing. Like, I just think more, like more. Like, if you have a spark inside of you about this stuff, and there's, like, you know, there's something that you want to express or get out, but you're not really sure, just, like, fucking run it forward. Like, maybe it'll be shit at the beginning, but just keep running it forward, and try to dig down and mine within yourself to feel, to like refine what you think that spark is, what it's about, and what is it trying to express or manifest. And you know, again, kudos to you guys for creating or beginning to create a platform where not only are you kind of implicitly saying, yes, like, we're here, we're artists, we're here, we'll support you, we'll give you a platform, we'll highlight your work, etc. But obviously, and I didn't know this until just a second ago, but helping them do so in a way that may even be, you know, financially incentivizing to them, which is great, you know.
All kind of Bitcoin only, by the way, all through BTC kind of pay server. So
nice.
No fiat. We completely reject fiat.
No slave notes here.
Nice.
I usually get that spark that you're talking about 4 a.m. in the morning when I should be asleep.
So what do you do with it when it comes? You
Yeah,
write it
just
down, you
just
get
go
up.
with it. Yeah, just go with it. Right there. I have to go with it there and then, because if I go back to sleep, it's gone in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's always
just
the
do it.
case. The number of insights I've had like running where I'm like, holy shit, I just blew my own goddamn mind. And then by the time I get home, I'm like, what? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
No idea what I was
I just have too many brilliant thoughts.
Yeah.
You just need to get the note app out and write them all down as quickly as you possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, but even that, the kind of the bandwidth between, or the state of thoughts in your mind and getting them to come through your arm into type or written form, it's like it's so sticky. Hopefully Elon is figuring out a way that we can just think thoughts into the exterior world at some point.
Watch out, Breedlove. We're coming for you. Come on, Elon, help us.
Yeah, we'll all be Breedloves with a little Elon chip in our brain, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but will he be after our keys?
Good question. Good question.
Not sure I want that chip.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be the first to sign up. I mean, he was saying in the presentation, if your skull is 10 millimeters thick, it's going to carve out 8 millimeters and just drop it in. But doesn't that make your skull a lot more vulnerable to hitting your head or, anything like that? Like there's an area where you're missing a huge chunk of your skull.
Was there for a reason.
The demo, and then I might consider it.
Yeah, I'll let other people go to Mars and chip themselves up and shit first, and then when it's super safe, I might give it a whirl. Anyways, off topic, but the if you go to 21ism website, there's a really cool comic that's there, and it's interesting because it's someone's journey from first, well, actually being kind of in a shitty, disordered state of life, which I know from having had a lot of these conversations, many people were coming from prior to Bitcoin. And I guess how could you not, if you were looking out at the world with somewhat clear perspective? There's a lot of reasons to be a little bit disheartened, and then it kind of goes through, but it jumps 4 years at a time in this guy's journey. What was the genesis of the comic? Is there going to be more? Tell me about it.
And so that came out of my head about sort of 6 months ago, and I had the good fortune of knowing a great manga artist who a friend of mine has worked with in the past. So I just proposed to him in the pub that I give him some Bitcoin and some cash, and he write this comic for me. And so I did the storyboarding and the narrative and the concept and the production and the printing, and he did all the art. And it took about 4 or 5 months, but it's been really exciting. That's the first thing like that I've ever done. We've been selling for Bitcoin, posting all over the world. 200 kind of print run, all sort of signed by the artist and myself, have gone out. Well, there's a few more left. But that's been great. And also I've been kind of giving it away for free under open source, under kind of GPL, as a kind of PDF for people to print locally, and not just to print one copy, but if they want to print 100 copies and they want to sell them or they want to give them away, then that's fucking great. As you say, it's the story of one guy's life over 20 years in the course of hyper Bitcoinization. What's happening to him on a personal kind of level, and then in his society and more globally, and it ends with an introduction for people about the facts, the kind of Q&A of Bitcoin, and an introduction into what it is and how to get involved and who to be looking at and who to be following, and some resources, etc. It's been cool. It's been fun. And I guess that's our first kind of product. That's our first kind of item for 21ism.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it really is. It looks phenomenal.
Thank you.
And the story is, I wanted it to be longer because I'm super into this stuff and I want to know all the little, changes in mentality along the way. And, you cover 20 years. And I think,
Yeah.
less than 20 pages maybe, or something thereabouts, right? So you cover a lot of ground quickly, but it's it looks great, and I love the idea behind it, and the resources at the end are phenomenal. So yeah, great job on that.
Cool.
Sorry, did someone want to go?
No, I was just going to say I don't know how you draw anything like that, and particularly in 4 months. I mean, that blows my little noodle.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not asking any of you to dox yourselves, but do people in your quote unquote normal life know that you're super into Bitcoin and that you contribute in a creative way to it, or is this kind of like an under wraps thing for you guys?
Adi?
Yeah, everyone that knows me knows that I'm crazy about Bitcoin. So yeah, almost to the extent where some of them don't want to know me anymore. But yeah, no, everyone that knows me knows that I'm doing this, and yeah, it's I just find it fun, and yeah, can't stop talking about it really. So that's what it's like for me. But yeah, that's what it's like.
Batters?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to quell it a little bit recently, but
Why?
generally I'm very difficult to shut up about anything that I'm passionate about. But
why have you tried to quell it?
Well, I mean, I'm starting to. I don't know. There are two things about it. First thing is that there are a fair few people that I've managed to onboard. In fact, quite a lot. I mean, my dad, he's a Deca coiner now. Like he's fully in there. Purely number go up, but still fully in there. My in-laws, who are really, really sort of risk adverse, otherwise, that they are more, that they're whole coiners, and a lot of friends and family across the generations. However, the ones that I haven't been able to catch now after 4 years, I think they're getting pretty tired of me always leading every conversational road back to Bitcoin, particularly in this kind of environment we're in now, because I refuse to be. I've wrote a little piece for Citadel 21 on this. I've refused to be sort of partisan in my thinking. I've been down that road. It leads to no real intellectual or otherwise good. So I don't know. I hear a lot of people around me just thinking that Trump is the reason for everything we're seeing right now, and they don't want to hear that I think Trump is a jackass, but he is nothing to do with any of this. They can't fathom that the money is broken. They can still buy shit at the shop. How is it possibly broken? The other reason I have sort of put a lid on it is that I'm living, as you know, very rurally, in a sort of historically quite poor area. Even now, with sort of like affluent kind of expats and second home owners, it's still a pretty poor area, and I
Don't want to be a target.
Well, yeah, I suppose it boils down to that. I can see the steps that could lead to a really, really messy kind of sort of turn, and I don't particularly. I've taken precautions. Whether that is multi-geographical, multi-sig, or whether that is having a shotgun or having 2 dogs that patrol the perimeter. And I don't want to sound like a prepper, but I think most Bitcoiners know what I'm on about.
Totally.
I'm very safe being so isolated, but I'm also slightly more vulnerable than somebody else might be at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Am I not for thinking like this? I mean, you're public. you're a public face, John. I mean, do you worry about your location being known, for example, because they know you, because people know your image? And how do you think about this whole thing?
I'm kind of two minds. I mean, of course I understand the anonymity piece, right? I mean, the less people know about you, the less attack surface there is. And uh, as with, I'm sure most or all of us here, you know, the transition, as we often call it. I mean, that it's hard for me to drum up circumstances where that doesn't look pretty bad, you know, and maybe we're able to circumvent that by going to places where it's not pretty bad, or extricating ourselves, or living in a rural life, or like maybe there are ways to mitigate that. But it seems like things, you know, the probability of things getting pretty darn bad pretty much everywhere are high enough to warrant consideration. On the other hand, you know, there's something about, you know, we talk about this revolution, and there's something about being anonymous about it to me that, what's the right words? Like, I kind of want to, like, well, part of this is I almost can't help it. Like, I need to talk about this shit, you know, and there's not enough people in my immediate environment to do so. So like, I just, that's why I started the podcast, right? I need to have these conversations. And, but the other thing is like, how do we get more people? Like, some people need to be talking about it. Some people, like, how did you, I mean, Selfbank, you said Andreas was, you know, a key piece for you, and like everyone has their different doorway in. And if everyone was just being anonymous, then those doorways are open far less. And again, to the point about like, it's important that people do kind of think about things differently, and do get different seeds planted in their head about different ways of thinking about these things. I think it's important. But also, a part of my personality is like, no, this is fucking right and true and good. Why should I run from this? I should I'll you know, I want to be loud and proud, sort of, you know, like I want to be out there and say, I will stake my reputation and, you know, kind of everything I am, that this is a just cause. And what am I saying about myself and the world and everything if I just withdraw from that because I'm scared of the repercussions, you know? And so I wax and wane, of course, I think, like everybody. But and then the other thing is, like, if enough of us are out there, it's really, I think, like any sort of oppressive measures to quell it become not only less practical, but a lot higher political hurdles. Like, if there's tens of millions of people that are like publicly out there as Bitcoiners, yes, like I'm sure there's circumstances we could drum up where it's still possible for fill in the blank oppressive government to do something about it. But like, the more people are open about it, the more it's ingrained, the more it's normalized, and the more difficult I think it is for like overt action against it. So all of these kind of float through my head from time to time. And, you know, maybe we all come to a point where we decide to withdraw to a certain degree or change our ways. But I think the biggest part of me is like, no, this is right. So, you know, come what may, I think we have to do what feels right for each of us.
That's why I thought the MicroStrategy news last month was particularly bullish. I mean, obviously, one's mind gets drawn towards sort of price appreciation through these sort of events. But the thing that I was feeling most bullish about was that here is a company putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. That will lead to other companies like Paul Tudor Jones. That will lead to other companies or other macro hedge fund guys doing the same. The more of these sort of influential figures start doing that, while us plebs are banging the drum in every way we can, while us plebs and everyone taking out each slave note that they can from their bank account, so they don't have that to fractionally reserve the hell out of, you know, all of those things combined means that it's the sort of government attack vector, or the ban, seems to me at least to have a lot less edge.
I think you need the both of us, though, don't you? I mean, you need the kind of clear net Bitcoiners and the Tor Bitcoiners. The ones in tour with the kind of Guy Fawkes masks on can just be that little bit more extreme, that little bit more kind of toxic.
Totally.
And that is helpful. That's like the sort of T-cell or the very virulent immune response, which maybe if you were an open kind of Bitcoiner, you'd have to be a little bit more sensitive, a bit more careful about how you present those arguments.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But I guess the reason why I asked the question at the, a few minutes ago is because I'm sure we're all highly convicted about this, but the reality is the future is uncertain and anything can fail, and rarely do things work out exactly as you see them working out. And I was just wondering, because, and I'm in a similar boat though in a different way, but when you commit so much of your time and energy and passion and hope to something, do you ever get concerned, or do people in your life get concerned that what if you're wrong? What are the repercussions of that? Now, and I'll just say, I'll answer first on this one. I think if your intention is in the right place, then, I'm okay with being wrong if I was striving for the right reasons. But I'd love to hear your guys' take on like the whole, doubt around devoting so much of your time and energy and creative juices to something where, you may be wrong.
It's not a waste of time. It's not ever going to be a waste of time. I think you get such a lot out of it in terms of learning about the world, the systems of our society, about yourself. I just think there's too much that you get out of this for it ever to be considered a waste of time. And I'm prepared to take that risk, like wholeheartedly, live or die by it.
Nice.
I just think that with just Bitcoin such a big deal, and in my eyes, and probably all of our eyes, for the positive, it's just believing in it and sharing memes, spreading the message. It's all just worth it because it's such a big deal. It's so revolutionary. I think it's a pinnacle moment in our civilization. Like as humans, this is such a big moment, a really big moment, and that's it. No one, it can't be shut down, so it's not going to go away. And I just can't, I can't believe that it's not going to work out. It's just so hard for me. I listen to so many arguments and I read Peter Schiff's tweets, and but no, I just can't. I can't see it. But that's just got such a level of conviction in it, and it all just has to come out in my memes, and that's it. Yeah, I don't really. I've spent time thinking about that it might not work out, but not. Every time I think about it, it comes back to the Bitcoin standard is going to come sooner or later.
I'm going to sound like an arrogant prick, and probably that's partly true. But I haven't made a habit of being wrong in my life.
You arrogant prick.
I think the people around me, although they might not want to hear me sort of wax lyrical about Bitcoin all the time, they have seen me throughout my adult life make some very good decisions. Some of them they thought I was insane for making, because in their eyes they involved a lot of risk. But I have, apart from sort of February 18, when I had a bit of a wobble and thought, oh, fuck, what is this now? Because all of a sudden your net worth has plummeted by a serious percentage. I haven't really ever considered that we might be wrong. And that's not to say that I haven't absolutely stress tested it in any way that I could. There is a neighbor, I say he lives at least 2 miles away, whose son-in-law is a senior risk assessor for one of the major banks in London. For the past 4 summers, every time he's come out, I've been bending his ear with Bitcoin, just wanting him to tear me a new one, like wanting to show, for him to show me where I'm wrong, what I'm missing. He's a Bitcoiner now.
Cool.
You know, he's as risk averse as they come.
Mm.
He's belt and braces kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so it depends on what you see Bitcoin success being. You know, is it possible that we're not going to have Bitcoin as a reserve currency, as a reserve asset for, you know, global reserve asset? Yes, that is possible. I think it's unlikely, particularly in a world with so much political turmoil. It seems sensible, and that you would have a neutral reserve asset. But Bitcoin is already a success, as I see it. It's already a parallel system that that allows you to opt out of the current one, and so in that way, I don't, you know, I feel like we're on a very, very good course already.
Mm.
And so one point is, what else is there, like, that is as huge as this out there, that's going to satisfy our intellect? I can't really find it. There's nothing else that really compares to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have no kind of faith in any deity or anything. Perhaps if I did, you know, I might have that as an option, but I don't know. I mean, although there are kind of Bitcoiners who have a strong faith in God. I'd be interested to learn more about all that, but I definitely can't find anything that I'm prepared to invest my time in as much as this.
Yeah. You know, I asked the question, like, do you ever doubt, you know, your conviction or, you know, the viability of this? But it's, you know, as with so many things in Bitcoin, it's so funny because, like, let's say in a moment of weakness, you're in that area where you're like, is this real? Like, will this succeed? Blah, blah, blah. And then the other side of that coin is, can you even allow yourself to appreciate what this actually means if it is real and it does succeed? Like, they're total opposite ends of the spectrum, but and that's what makes it, maybe that's what makes the dynamic so interesting. But if it is successful and we're right about what this is, RD, as you were saying, like, it's almost, you know, it's really difficult to appreciate in its fullness what this actually means. And it's almost like you can't overdo it, you know, like, you know, we're all so enthusiastic, whether we're, you know, trying to, you know, red pill noobs or pre-coiners or whatever, but like no amount of enthusiasm is sufficient if this is really the real deal, you know. And it's the dichotomy between the two that just pulls you apart sometimes. Not me personally, because I'm more on the side of, you know, the trying to appreciate what it is and will be, but you know, nevertheless, like, I think those dynamics play out in a lot of people's minds, just from a point of view of trying to be pragmatic about things, right? About an uncertain future.
Well, imagine being sort of like, I think even the most bullish internet person in the early 90s wouldn't have predicted VoIP, let alone money over the internet. Or do you know what I mean? The use cases that they were seeing, we passed long ago. It is impossible to kind of almost overestimate the potential.
Yeah.
And I come from an industry that I've luckily left, but one that was, you know, the music industry, which was completely disrupted by P2P technology. I've seen this happen already. on a much smaller scale. But I mean, they were like governments are now and whatever. They were too slow to move, and by the time they finally move, yes, they can claw back some kind of business, but really, there's not much they can do to stop what's coming.
Southbank, you brought up religion, and it's a interesting thing that pops up in the space. I think this is actually somewhat, not polarizing is the wrong word, but people have pretty strong views on both sides of this. Some take the very objective, rational view that this is just a technological system. It serves a purpose. That's it. Don't overdo it. And then there's other people that maybe see greater implications or greater meaning in it. And not, of course, denying that it's a technological and social system, but, again, extrapolating or interpreting the implications of what it can do or what it can facilitate, and coming to a lot of kind of religious connotations in those lines of thinking. And religion and art is another thing that's bundled up sometimes together. I mean, we could get real deep and say, well, what's the source of creativity? Where does that come from? How do these thoughts and ideas coalesce, and what drives you to express them? Where does that shit come from, as it were? But what are your thoughts on that relationship between Bitcoin, religion, and or art, if you want to throw that in the mix too?
Yeah, and so every time I sort of make that kind of correlation, I regret it afterwards, or I get told by other people that I should be regretting it. But then I keep doing it over and over again. I can't seem to fucking stop myself. So it's just, I guess, and in terms of art, I think it's just this intuitive sort of aspect of, and so like kind of Badders was talking about earlier, I think that these artists are on the vanguard of the thought, of the cultural edge. And so they're just expressing the beginnings of ideas, and there's a kind of intuition that comes there, and you don't really know where that comes from, but that is a creative sort of drive, which I guess is what this 21ism thing is trying to capture and to sort of focus and to present a bit more widely, and to promote. So I should never bring religion into it, but I always do.
Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
My mother's actually a Christian priest. You call her a priest, we call her a vicar. And obviously she probably has to listen to more about Bitcoin than most other people that know me. But she's on board. She's got a little bit now. And I don't really know how sort of her deep thoughts on it. I think generally she likes the idea. She sees the problems with money, as we have it at the moment. And I think she does see that Bitcoin is a better form of money. And like I've talked with her about it and said that it's a more peaceful form of money as well. So, in that it's much harder to steal. So that will disincentivize, wars and the theft of other countries' wealth. And, I think she recognizes that, and I don't think she can translate it into Christianity, very, very easily, but she's certainly not against the idea, and I think she sees the benefits of it. And we talk about it a lot. So yeah, it's interesting.
You should record some of those conversations.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear them.
She's pretty open-minded, just like me, really. So
Right.
Yeah.
Badders, anything?
Yeah, the way that I see it, I mean, I think it's a really complex question, and I don't think that there is a right answer. But and I'm just sort of jamming here, but the human species, as it evolved sort of cognitively, based a lot of its early developments on this sort of innate socially cognitive architecture that through which we sort of interpreted the world around us, right? And that also kind of ended up bringing with it, I think, a sort of a religious impulse that was intrinsic to humans, to make sense of the world around them. And I think religion is about connection. Religion, I think it's from Italian religare, which means reconnection. And I think this is a human need that's there. So, yeah, it seems to me that it's something that is sort of innate in humans, this need to make sense of the world around them and to reconnect with the world around them, including people. And that is something that through postmodernism, whatever, has left a hole in people and in society. I think this is, I'm no great advocate for religion. I am agnostic myself, but it stands to reason, I think, that this is why we're seeing a lot of the sort of diseases of despair in society today. We have lost we often talk about having lost the tether to money, but I think we have lost the tether to nature, to what makes us human in many ways. You know, everything from people not knowing, or kids not knowing where eggs come from, or and I don't know. I think we've come to see the world through science and other things as manageable and quantifiable. And if it isn't manageable or quantifiable, it doesn't have value. And so, sorry, as I say, I'm kind of riffing here. So,
oh no, I love it.
So,
riff away.
So it seems to me that there is a. This is also why I think that we are seeing such a rise in the sort of social justice warriors. It's almost become a religion of its own. I know, but Jordan Peterson, he talks about this and probably many other people as well, actually. But you know how you can almost draw parallels through between sort of the woke culture and religion. You know, from sort of white guilt being original sin to other things. And yeah, I don't know. I just, if it is a religion, is the first religion ever that's empirical or imperial, whatever the word is, in nature.
I think.
Do you know what I mean?
There's one thing that you might be able to say, which is that I don't think that we all have to be the same. I think that kind of Bitcoiners could be very multifarious in their nature and their politics and their prejudice and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we all agree on the money, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a religion in that sense. Like, we don't all have to be clones of each other in terms of the thought and the culture.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think that, well, one, I'm always like, I don't think any discussion of an idea should be off the table. So, you know, to those people that just dismiss it, I'm like, no, let's fucking jam about it. Like, let's riff like Batters was just saying, and let's see if there's any useful thoughts here. But I agree with that. And I think what it's going to do, perhaps more than anything, is cause us to maybe redefine or recontextualize what religion even is, and Batters, you were talking about connection, and obviously a distributed network. I mean, there's few metaphors better for, or even instantiations of connection. I mean, you're literally connecting electronically, disparate people all over the place, and you're providing a platform for them to communicate within certain parameters. And one of the concepts of religion that, as far as I know, kind of extends throughout all of them is this idea of unity, kind of at the core of things, a unity, a oneness. And so a connectivity is a very much related concept to that. So there's like a line of thinking where you may say, okay, I see why that might engender certain religious connotations in some cases. And another thing you were mentioning is kind of our social evolution. You brought up Peterson, and he's certainly made the case, and he's always somewhat ambiguous about his, like, people try to nail down what his religious beliefs are, and he
avoids that.
He ducks and dives and gets out of it a lot of time. But one of the things he says is that over the millions of years of human evolution, obviously part of that evolution would have been what we picked up from the social cues of interacting with one another. And we would have, kind of distilled from all those interactions over the generations what represents good, kind of most beneficial behavior for both, the synthesis of what benefits us the most and the people that we're interacting with, like what is the maximum of the two and what is like kind of the worst, right? And these were codified in probably pre-religious times and then religious times. Anyways, that's his theory. And I'm sure I'm sure I butchered it a little bit, but that's more or less the point. And again, back to Bitcoin, these are a set of rules on this network that we voluntarily engage in, and it seems to be that even though they're restrictive parameters, they're so it's both a system of restriction and permission. That if we engage in this system, then there's in this way, there's certain benefits to be derived between us that also benefit the whole, and vice versa. And so there again is like kind of like, well, you could draw a string from that to religious connotations. And the other thing about kind of redefining religion is, I have a suspicion that if you're in front of, let's say, a devout Catholic in the grocery store, and they drop the $100 bill that they were just about to pay with, and you pick it up and you say, I found it on the floor, it's mine now, looking right at their face, then they're probably, maybe they fight you, maybe they yell at you, maybe they call the police, whatever. And maybe this is a bad example, but I'm kind of saying, like, I think money is actually most people's religions. I know it's nice to think that you believe in a higher power that, that gives you a comfort about your existence, and maybe espouses certain ideals that allow you to think that you're a good person, or that you will go to a good place after you die, or that allows you to virtue signal either to yourself or to the exterior world. But I think that for most people, the vast majority of people, money, that ultimate optionality, it's almost a form of magic. It's something that you can turn into any other thing that exists. That is most people's religion. That is the thing that most compels their behavior. And that's another question about defining religion. Should religion be defined as that which most compels? I mean, that's an interesting question. Like, what drives our behavior? And so so I think for all those reasons, and I'm not saying any of the stuff I just said is like absolute proof that Bitcoin should be part of redefining religion, but I think it's a really interesting conversation to have. And I think the kind of strict, for lack of a better term, strict like scientists or thinkers, technologists, or people that only think it fits in one realm, I think at least they should be receptive to, allowing those conversations or even wanting those conversations to take place, because this is all brand new territory for all of us. We're entering into this thing, and it's almost like a lot of the stuff that came before doesn't apply anymore. And we're going to be determining a lot of new things socially, culturally, artistically, creatively, et cetera, economically. And we should be more than happy to just let them all come together. And finally, to your point about the social justice stuff, unfortunately, that, and ironically, and I know this comes as no surprise to you guys or anyone listening, as you know, as much as they like to espouse ideas like inclusivity, nobody shuts down, you know, opposing forms of thought more than those people in that category these days. And you know, I guess we'll bring it up. I wasn't planning on it, but a recent example emerged in Bitcoin where it seems as though you know, into Bitcoin Core. And yes, it's an insignificant change in the grand scheme of things, and it doesn't affect anything anywhere. But I think a lot of people were upset about a change that was made that seemed to be made for ideologically motivated reasons, not pragmatic reasons of improving, you know, the technology that underpins Bitcoin, the network, let's say. And that was a bit weird for a lot of people. And that, and then you know, the kind of fallout from that was a fracturing and people saying like, you know, you're toxic, I don't want to hear from you. And it's really too bad that these sorts of people exist in the space and these sorts of people. And I didn't, you know, I was fairly disheartened to see that, because like whatever, any kind of view you hold politically, religiously, whatever, at the end of the day, I don't care at all. But I want to make sure that you and I are willing to test any of those ideas or assumptions or ideologies and put them to the fire and see which ones hold. And also have the maturity to know when it should be applied and when it shouldn't be applied, like to what things it should accommodate it and what things shouldn't accommodate it. And, you know, so that was actually kind of a weird thing to emerge recently. And I know I said a lot just then. What any input from you guys?
And so I don't know all that much about it, but I know that the system needs to be purely kind of meritocratic, right? And I know that 21ism every 21 days, as well as kind of featuring an artist, we're going to be featuring a Bitcoin developer, and we're going to be trying to channel some donations their way through our site. We'll be talking about their backstory, the projects they're involved with, their content, their productivity, and just interesting random shit about them. But it's all about trying to kind of champion these people, because if we need to make these Bitcoin core developers, we need to sing their praises. We need to make sure that they know that they're appreciated. We need to support them.
I agree with that, but I think we also need to hold their feet to the same fire that we hold everyone else's to. Because, you know, even of course you could objectively say their contribution is more important, but unfortunately I fundamentally don't agree that means they should be treated any differently. And, you know, so they shouldn't be, you know, the toxicity, quote unquote, or the aggressiveness or whatever the discourse entails, should fall on them the same as it falls on everybody else. And I don't think they should expect otherwise either. But the recent examples might suggest that, you know, that's not necessarily the case.
But I think that's true. I mean, Bitcoin has sort of knit us together as a social fabric in its own right. And but that is, I was saying earlier that if it's religion, it's the first religion that's imperial in nature. I mean, that's the sort of social consensus rules, isn't it? Almost that this is, we're based on math, we're based on truth, and there shouldn't be room for feels in that way, and sort of political correctness and walking on eggshells and stuff. So I see why it has arisen, but to go back to the religious thing, whether it's, I think there's the word religion is so heavily weighted. Everyone has their own sort of context, but I suppose I would rather see it as a sort of spirituality shorn of irrational beliefs, perhaps.
Go on.
Yeah, just I'm not sure my thinking goes any further than that right now. But just sort of like maybe spirituality is a bit of a coward's word for religion. I don't know, but we do. I think most people pride themselves of the search, being part of the search for truth.
Yeah.
And if we are on this sort of ambitious quest for truth, then sort of gendered language doesn't really fit in there, as well as a bunch of other sort of
I agree.
culturally appropriate things now to say.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where do we go from there? I don't know.
What would Satoshi think?
What would Satoshi think? That's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's a trip in itself. I mean, if that individual is still alive, I mean, just imagine to see this, what this phenomenon has emerged, if you were the one that pressed the start button on it all. I mean, like, it's because I wonder, is like, would he see it, or they, or whoever, would they see it and be like, this makes sense to me. Like, this is what I thought was going to happen. Or is it just totally, outside of the realm of what they expected? And obviously his early emails and correspondences give clues to how he was thinking about this stuff, but who knows? We probably will never know.
Peter McCormack is Satoshi. That's the latest one I heard. That's fucking brilliant.
Really?
Man, talk about OPSEC.
I love it.
Oh, man.
What's the next, Bob?
Hal will always be Satoshi in my mind.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Well, gents, we're coming to the end here now, but I don't know if there's things that you wanted to touch on that you guys are working on, upcoming projects that I either am not aware of or have slipped my mind. But is there anything you guys wanted to touch on before we shut it down?
Launch date, we haven't actually kind of pinned it down yet for 21ism.com. And so the site is under construction at the moment. And so right now it's just a kind of sales platform for the graphic 21ism kind of story that we talked about. But over the next week to 10 days, hopefully. Batters, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. We're just really focusing on getting absolutely, like, getting it absolutely right.
Yeah.
And can you articulate again, to the extent that you want to give away stuff, like what the finished product is going to be, like when you not just with the website, but this piece that I contributed to and that you discussed a little bit already, like when is that coming out and what should people be expecting from that? Because it sounds, Batters, from what you sent to me, it sounds really, really interesting and cool. So maybe elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, as I said, it's a sort of we call it the creative carousel, because we're basically going around for a new sort of spin every 21 days, and
Right.
we will be celebrating all the different sort of creative people, whether that be artists, designers, writers, musicians, meme artists, writers, developers, videographers, and as part of that, we for each individual feature, we try to celebrate them in different ways and try to get to know them a bit better. And as part of that, there will be a interview. You did one with our featured writer, everyone's friend Gigi, just the other day. And so that interview will be featuring on his feature page, but will then be sort of collated, if that's the right word, with all the other interviews into a podcast that will be sort of woven together with various bits of original music, maybe some quotes, audioscapes of various sorts.
That is going to be a sick ass podcast. I can't wait to listen to that.
Cool.
Should we reveal who we're featuring this first block, guys? Or...
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Different.
Breaking news.
that was a very dramatic silence there. why don't you go ahead? One of you guys.
The suspense is killing me. Somebody.
Go on, Southbank.
And so the artist is Cypherpunk Now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
Badass.
And we'll
The
have a bunch
designer-
of his different work sort of up for sale, up for sale. And as we said earlier, 100% of all sales go to the creator. We're very bad business people, but this is what Bitcoin does to you. All of a sudden, we don't have the fear of 20% inflation over 10 years. We don't have to be sharp elbows try to make money. We're going with the spirit of Bitcoin.
I love it. Who else we got?
And we got 21 is Enough, who I think is quite slept on actually as the designer. He has developed a really incredible Lightning Network ATM, which will also be for sale on his page.
Holy shit.
Then we have a band called Time Machine, who is I Am the Characters hip-hop group. Obviously well known for his BLM speech at the rally. Really incredible album. I've been banging that out in the valley here to the joy of all the wildlife around. And yeah, you go, Self-Banked.
The videographer Richard James, who did the Hard Money video.
Mm-hmm.
And a bit about his previous kind of back sort of catalog as well. And so he's a really phenomenal artist that we're proud to present. The developer is Rootsol, the Raspberry Blitz kind of core developer. A system that I use and love and rely on and can put funds in. Who else have we got, guys?
Then we have Sven Fury as the meme artist this time around. Another Bitcoiner with an incredible life story.
Yeah.
And a super nice guy.
Gonna be talking to Sven soon. I can't wait.
Yeah, man, he's a dude. And then we have, as we mentioned, Gigi, who has written a bespoke piece for,
which is really, really good. He sent it to me before our discussion, and he's a great writer. But I had, like I said at the beginning of our chat, I had goosebumps on my skin and water-filled eyes when I finished it, and we rolled right into our chat as soon as I finished.
Yeah, and he's also an absolute dude.
Yeah.
So all of the people that we're featuring are just, incredible Bitcoiners, incredible creative talents, and just really interesting people. And that, although some of them are well known in the space, people deserve to know a lot more about. Well, yeah, everyone deserves for them to be more known.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And I think this is a amazing project that you guys have taken upon yourselves to put together. Really looking forward to checking it out. And I'm just bullish on Bitcoiners, as we say often. I'm super stoked that guys like you exist and that you're doing this kind of work, and that you're feeling that same mojo that so many of us are feeling. And just thank you for your work, guys, and thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks a
All right,
lot.